So the very first step to setting up an accessible PDF using Word and Adobe Acrobat Pro is setting up the document correctly inside of Microsoft Word. So the very first thing we need to make sure that we're doing is using our heading tags. So they're located underneath Home. And you'll notice that if you put your cursor inside of any of these big pretty texts on my page, it will tell you what type of heading it is. So on your documents, you should have one heading 1. There's only one per page. It's the heading of your document. And then moving down, you have heading 2 and then heading 3. What we don't want to do is we don't want to just highlight the text, make it bigger, make it bold. This does not give any structure to your document. The headings allow a screen reader to go through and skip from spot to spot in the document and scan it just like you would with your eyes, right? So think about it like a textbook. It's allowing you to scan the textbook and find the information that you want. So instead of adjusting it manually, we need to use our styles to make sure that we have them all together and that it's working. And then of course we're going to go in proper order. Like I said, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing that you need to do is add alt tags to your images. So if you have an image inside of your document, you would click on it. What's so cool is right now when you insert an image into Microsoft Word, it's automatically writing an alt tag for you using AI, but you do have to accept it. So you would right click on it and then click view alt text and it pops up over here. So I need to make sure that I have the alt text and it's there. Now, if this were just a decorative element and I don't want a screen reader to tell people what it is, then I would just click mark as decorative, okay? The way that you're going to write alt text is pretend like you are describing the image to someone using a blindfold. So it's a purple t-shirt with a logo that says cross country. And that would be a great alt tag for this because you would be able to imagine that in your mind. And that's what this alt tag is for. It's for people to be able to imagine the image that you've given them. And once again, if it's just a supplemental image and it doesn't actually have anything to do with the content, then you can just mark it as decorative. So that way people aren't reading weird alt tags with their screen readers. Okay. So then we need to make sure that our tables are set up correctly. So when you look at a table and it's properly formatted and it has a nice header row, you can see here we've got bold text, we have a background color change. That's how we interpret the header row on a table. Well, a screen reader, it doesn't see that. So we need to physically tell it what is going on with the headers. So to do that, we're going to first put our cursor inside of the table and in the header row, and then we'll click table layout. And then you need to click repeat header rows. That's what tells it that this is the header of your table. And then if you really want to be careful with it, you can right click and you can go to table properties, make sure that row is selected, and you would check the options, allow row to break across pages and repeat as header row at the top of each page. And that's another way that you're indicating this is the header of the table. And then the screen reader will read it to people differently because you've indicated that this header is relative to the things inside of the columns or rows underneath it. All right. So then we need to make lists and links that don't suck. So what does that mean? All right. So when you are creating a list, you need to use the list icon. Okay. So you can have a numbered list, which is the numbers. You can have an unordered list, which is just the bullets. What you can't do is just insert an icon and then have stuff next to it, right? So we don't want that. We don't want to have just an emoji with stuff next to it. It has to be a properly formatted list so that way their screen reader knows this information is grouped together and it's a list. Okay, so the second thing is we have to have links that don't suck. Click here doesn't mean anything in a screen reader. So instead of having click here for your link, you would use words like download the annual report PDF, right? Because then those words are linking to the report PDF, right? So you wouldn't say to download the annual report PDF, click here and then link the words click here because that doesn't give the context to the link. The actual PDF needs to be linked to the words, download the annual report PDF. Okay, I hope that's clear as mud, but we need to have descriptive link text. Okay, so next up, we need to set our document language. So that is underneath the review tab. And we're going to click language and set proofing language. Now, before we do this, we need to select everything in the document. So Control A, select everything in the document, and then set the proofing language. And we're going to select English, and then you click OK. Boom. That's all you have to do. Okay, so from there, we need to make sure that we fill out our document properties. So even though this document is set and has a name, and that's how it's saved, it does not have a title inside of the metadata for the document. So to get there, we're going to go to File, and then we click on Info, and it's right over here underneath Properties. I need to set a title, PDF example. Now, that is connected with my document and it has a title in the metadata. All right, so after that, you can run Word's built-in PDF, accessibility checker. So we'll come over once again to our review tab and we'll click check accessibility and then click check accessibility. And it will open up the pane over here. So it says, looks good, no issues found. If there was an issue found, like let's say that I don't have an alt tag on this image. So if I go to view alt text and I delete this, then if I come back and I run my check my accessibility report, it will give me the error, right? It says missing alt text. And then I can put my alt text in right here, and then I can click save. All right, and then it shows me an updated report. So from here, we're actually ready to go through and export as an accessible PDF. So you will go to File, and let me move this little thing here. So File, and then I'm going to click Save as Adobe PDF here. Come here, baby. All right, so now I need to click Options, and underneath my options, I'm going to check Convert Document Information, Enable Accessibility, Create Bookmarks. I even click Convert Word Styles to Bookmarks and Convert Word Bookmarks because then all of them are automatically in there. So I click OK, and then from here, I can click Save, only I'm going to be saving over something, so it's going to be mad at me. Save. Okay, so now it is creating my accessible PDF. So how do I know if it's actually working? I'm going to open it up in Adobe Acrobat. Now from here, I am going to click on Tools. We need to have all tools, and then we click View More. And we're looking for Prepare for Accessibility. And then from here, I'm going to click Check for Accessibility. And then click Start Checking. And it's going to run the accessibility checker. Now, right now, you can see I have two document issues in here. So let's open them up. Logical reading order needs a manual check, and the color contrast needs a manual check. All right, we can handle that. If there were other things that are out of control, they would be listed in here and flagged as individual things, and I could click on them and learn more about them. Okay, so logical reading order needs a manual check. How do I do that? I'm going to go over, once again, I'm underneath Prepare for Accessibility, and I click Fix Reading Order. What this cool tool does for me is it allows me to see the order that the checker perceives people are going to read this in. So you just look at it and you think, is this logical? Like, is this the way I want people to see this information? And for me, the answer is yes, this is the way I want them to see this information. I think this looks great. Okay. The only thing that feels a little out of order here is this picture, but once again, you know, it's up to your discretion, right? All right, so I did that manual check, and then the other thing that it wanted me to do was to look at the color contrast. It needs a manual check. So for color contrast, for ADA compliance, you have to have enough contrast between the words and the background, right? And those are choices that you made during the design. If there are things that you think, that seems kind of light, and it's kind of surprising, there's a lot of like colors that just don't come through well. For example, yellow on like anything other than black, probably not going to pass. Red, red doesn't always pass even on white. So if you are concerned about your colors, then the easiest way to check those out is you can go over to WebAIM Contrast Checker. And then what you'll do here is you will choose the foreground value, like what color are the words, and the background color, like what color is the background. So in Word, if I want to check the color of my content, I can put my cursor in the content color I want to check. And then I'm going to go up to the icon where I would set the color for it, click the drop down, and see it says right here that it's this dark teal. Now, it tells me that I have good contrast right here. So it's checking it for me. If I want to manually check it because I think it's questionable, I can click more colors, and then it will give me the hex code for this particular color, so I can copy it, and then I can go back out to my browser and I can paste, and it will give me this is the color of my headings, this is the color of my background, and you can see that my contrast ratio is good here. Now it's passing everything, which is awesome. Most compliant PDFs are going to need to pass at least at AA, okay? And you can see that there's some normal text, large text, and graphical objects and user interface components. So with these different things, if I really wanted to have orange text, for example, then I could have it as large text, but I might not be able to have it as small text. And you can see down at the bottom here, it does define what that they mean by large and small text. So good news though is that Word does a good job of helping you through this by giving you all of these tools already. Now, if you're having trouble using the built-in tools in Word to make your PDF accessible, and you might even be having a challenge in Adobe Acrobat Pro because sometimes it's not clear what's going on, you can use another software called Pack that will give you an even deeper scan of your document. Now, not everything that Pack talks about is something that you really need to be concerned about unless you're under some contractual obligation that you need to have a much more compliant PDF. Ultimately, people need a PDF that screen readers can use, and that's something that's completely attainable using just Microsoft Word and Adobe Acrobat Pro. But Pack also does a really good job of identifying where exactly the challenge is inside of your documents because it shows you your results in detail, and then it lets you toggle down through the items and it will highlight exactly where they are inside of the document. So this challenge is lying on page 4, and then I can go out and look at it and discern like what is that? What is this figure, right? And in this case, it's actually just the line is considered a figure. So you can also use Pack, and I will go into detail about using Pack in another video. It's just a great problem-solving tool that you have in your toolbox to make sure that you can diagnose exactly what's going on and make these awesome compliant PDFs. Okay, so hopefully that gives you what you need, and you can always contact us with questions. We're here to help you along in this journey to make your website awesome and usable by everyone.